Sometimes a man can't be himself in the eyes of the sun, because sons were told they should never walk with a switching cage in their hips. Switch. Through silence-filled alleyways and secluded communities under blacked-out skies, the sun isn't too accepting of my nature. Living as a homosexual black male is like a sleeping gazelle in a lion's den, but I refuse to run.
Switch. I hide in the daytime. Walk crooked towards masculinity, it's tough. When feminine tendencies won't allow me to make a fist. A devil controlling my forearm to hang low like a lynched dream. Switch.
The world evicts you from normality, turns your natural into a disease, tells you your love is a jihad and will never be tolerated. How do you tame your forest fire passion? How do you walk the streets?
When the arches of homophobic stares pierce through your core,
Creating this cocoon.
A hideous premature butterfly that will never be able to ascend in heterosexual skies. The testosterone-filled wings that flap uncomfortably do nothing but hold me down. So I will switch.
I have followed biblical paths and roadmaps searching. I still can't find a damn thing wrong with me. I met a man yesterday. He's got LL's lips and Malcolm's mind. Let my skin envelop his manhood while the hairs on the backs of our necks give us a standing ovation.
Switch. Tonight I will live life like the universe was a rainbow playground. Like the colors were drinks at a bar, and I will sip until the sun explodes. Take shots until I stumble like an intoxicated skyline.
Tomorrow I will meet the man of my dreams.
Switch.
Two men disappear like sound.
October 9th, 1998, Wyoming News. Shepherd's skull is smashed with a handgun. Switch.
February 16, 2005, Daily News. Hacked up teen found on Nostrand Ave.
Switch. October 12th, 1998, New York Times. Young man dies 5 days after he was rescued from being tied to a fence. Switch.
February 17, 2005, New York Times. Butchered Bushwick teen on Nostrand Ave identified.
Switch. His name is Matthew Shepard.
His name was Rashawn Brazell. Two men with exploding stars for futures. When I first heard about you, Rashawn.
Matthew,
Your death some silently as fuses, unsightly explosions of hatred. To save ourselves, we search for splendor. Sean, he didn't want to kill you, but when you held him in your arms, heard the music encaged in your bones, the same music you switched to. He just wanted to free the melody, electric song, knowing that your joint. He did it for the music, separated leg from growing neck, from skull back, from spine.
I swear he did it for the music, limb to bag.
With the bang.
Matthew, they couldn't understand your brilliance. The way your intelligence backstroked in your cranium. You were bright like an intoxicated skyline. Those pistol whips cracked your top open like a sunflower seed. Click-clacking a desert easel, cock back swing. Cock back swinging you into a fatality.
There were two men who loved above standards. The media calls you hacked up,
Pistol whip,
butchered,
gay bash.
They forgot to mention that you were human. So today, we pitch your names into the wind. Listen to the syllables switch off the tongues of every little boy who's taught us to switch in public. Because sons
Shine a hydrogen bomb bright, even when they switch.
So the context for this one is that Monique's older brother Daniel comes out as gay in the first book, and she just gets kind of surprised. She's like, "Oh, like I feel like she knew, but she didn't really know." So, what is your take on the gay agenda?
Being in agriculture and seeing all the shit that they doing to our food, it wouldn't really surprise me if people were born gay. And I can't really say if someone was born gay or not. But I don't know. I don't really try. I'm not going to say say I don't try to understand the LGBT community, but I'm not a member of the LGBT community. So I understand that ultimately I'll never completely understand what it feels like to be them. But I do know what it's like to be discriminated against. And I don't give a fuck who you like to have sex with. I don't really care about any of that. You're still a human being and you deserve to be treated, you know what I'm saying, with respect. And I think if more black people would think of it that way and less homophobic, that we might even see a decrease of homosexuality in our own community, because sometimes it's just that feeling of being ostracized, or, you know what I'm saying, like when, I don't know, and then when you start getting into things with sexual abuse, when you look at all the teenagers and grown people that touch on kids and stuff like that, it doesn't surprise me that we have this type of sexual perversity. So there are a lot of factors that go into it, but for me to sit here and just say your whole experience as a gay man or gay woman or whatever you identify as is invalid, I don't think I have the right to do that. In the same token, they don't have the right to invalidate my experience in America as a black person.
Like, what do you think makes us so? Well, I won't even say us. Makes some black people so apprehensive toward homosexuality.
I think sometimes, honestly, I think it kind of stems from a lack of respect for women. Because if you look at all the attributes that are associated with being a woman, it's being soft, being feminine, and these, or things that are associated with being feminine, which is being in touch with your emotions and things like that, men attribute that to women. You know what I'm saying? Not even realizing that emotions or feelings are a human thing. They're not a biological sex thing. So if you have a child who, you know what I'm saying, just because a boy likes to do ballet doesn't mean he's gay. But if you tell him that doing ballet is gay, you start making him think he's gay. So he could have, whole time, not even really been gay. He was just being gay because he felt like that's what he was supposed to do because he liked ballet. You see what I'm saying? So we got to kind of get a better understanding of the role that we play in these things, and really understanding that we never going to understand, but that doesn't give us the right to disrespect people.
And do you think that society has kind of made being gay commercial?
That is difficult because part of that could just be representation. You know what I'm saying? Like if gay people, the same way black people want to be represented on a reality TV show, I don't see why, you know what I'm saying, a transsexual man wouldn't want to be, you know what I'm saying, wouldn't want his community to be represented either. But I do feel like, I don't know, one thing I'm not going to disagree with is that there is an attack on blackness everywhere in every shape, form, and fashion. So it would not surprise me if, you know what I'm saying, homosexuality is being pushed more on the black community than it is other communities, which I could kind of understand. But then sometimes, see, I'm still on the fence about this one myself. I guess I haven't really come to a conclusion yet, because when I look at rappers like Young Thug or whatever, when he wears a dress, it's like, dang, that's gay. But then it's like, well, no, because, you know, it's not gay. You're still a boy. You still like girls if you just want to wear a dress and shit. That's how you felt like wearing. But I don't know. I don't think I have the authority to really comment on that because I'm not in that community.
I guess it kind of irks me when people are like, oh yeah, that's the gay agenda, this, and that. And then first they start off talking about the gay agenda, but then they kind of slowly merge into their homophobia, and it's just like, are you against the gay agenda, or are you against gay people? And I feel like it can't, like what you said, when you can't see attacks on blackness everywhere, so somebody might be manipulating it so that it will negatively impact the black community. But I feel like you shouldn't blur that with if that's somebody, like if that's just who they are.
Right, that's somebody's life. Like you can't tell somebody who's gay and who has been through so much and that's why they are the way they are, and they say, oh, you on the white people's side. Like, hell no, what you mean? Like, that's not, yeah, I agree.
Because, James Baldwin, he was for black people, but he was gay. And, I've heard some people say that if you're gay, you can't be a black activist. And I'm just like, that's not true. And then Audre Lorde as well.
Yeah, I agree. I forgot where I was going with that, but I do agree with you. I think that people people who use their fear and their ignorance. You know what I'm saying? People don't really understand the LGBTQIA community, and they don't take the time to really understand it. So when it comes down to making comments, they just go off what they see on Twitter or go off what majority of the people in that community say, and then they just kind of bandwagon. But it really is, it all results from ignorance, for real.
And I know this author, I can't think of her name, but, her name, she wrote a book about, it was about, like, this woman coming to America and learning herself, and she said that trans women aren't women.
Americana.
Yeah. And, like, she made the comment that trans women aren't real women, and I guess people got really bothered by that. But what do you think about that?
I agree. Like, I just seen on Twitter this transsexual woman who was a man who's now a woman is doing sports and shit and taking titles from women. Like, I don't agree with that. And that's why I feel like I feel like people need to celebrate who they are. And what you are is a transsexual woman, period. Now, you can identify as a woman, but what you are is transsexual. You know what I'm saying? So, to me, I feel like trans people in that community also need to own up and take pride in who they are. Because if you're transsexual, you're not just a woman. You're a transsexual woman. And so, if you want proper representation, you need to say that whole title. So, if we need to create a whole LGBT gangs and let them just go against each other and all that shit, because we can't, you know what I'm saying? But that's not fair to take something from other people who've been, you know what I'm saying? Because we are women. I've been having a period. I've been going through shit that you will never, ever, ever understand. And it's not fair that I have to blend my experience in with yours because you feel like you belong. And that doesn't work that way.
That's true. And, like, it's like I support gay issues, but I just feel like sometimes people try to, like, blend everything together. And it's like, you can't just blend, like, you can't just say, oh, I'm for, like, you try to blend womanism with being pro-gay, with being a black activist. It's like you can't just throw everything into a pot. It's like I feel like you have to separate each issue. And it's like they try to lump everything together into one. And it's like you don't understand each thing for what it is.
I agree. I mean, it comes from ignorance. You know what I'm saying? People just thirsty to have an opinion, not even fully educated on what it is that they have an opinion about. I totally agree.
Cause I know, like, on Instagram, I'll see these activist pages, and it's like they're like, oh yeah, I'm for all these issues, this, and that, and it's like if someone says something that's not aligned with their agenda, it's like, oh, you're homophobic, you're transphobic, you're this, and it's like, no, I support you. It's just some things I don't agree with.
Yeah, I just got into a whole Twitter debate the other day about this around Boosie or whatever, where he said when he went in jail and seen some gay men, and I was saying how he was wrong. You don't have to want to watch gay men have sex. You feel me? But what you don't have to do is call them nasty motherfuckers, call them, you know what I'm saying, call them all sorts of names and degrade them as human beings because they doing some shit that you don't agree with. And so I said, like, if you don't like Donald Trump, right, and you're against his travel ban and you're against his ban on Muslims and shit like that, but then you turn around and agree with Boosie and don't see nothing wrong with what he did, then you missing the point. You see what I'm saying? This whole judgmental stereotyping everybody, these generalizations that everybody makes, when honestly, the shit don't got nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? Really, gay people just want to be gay together. Like, what does you being gay have to do with me being straight? How is your gayness impacting my ability to live a straight life? I don't see how it does. And so I don't know.
Did you hear about what happened with Migos?
No.
I think when they were performing with Katy Perry, she had these drag queens. I hope that's the right term. I know it's like a specific term you're supposed to use for them, but yeah, they were on the stage and they said they were uncomfortable being on the stage with them, and I guess people got upset by that. And it's like, I understand. I guess I feel like if you don't feel comfortable with that, you have the right to that opinion as long as you're not being malicious about it. It's like what you said.
But here's my question though: what about them makes you uncomfortable? Because I don't understand.
I think it's they probably just don't understand them. And that's really what it is.
If you don't understand them, to say that you don't understand them and your lack of understanding them makes you uncomfortable. The way to solve that is to not run away from them, is to sit down and have a conversation with them. Because 9 times out of 10, them drag queens wasn't thinking nothing about the Migos. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't really understand. You know what I'm saying? Black men, I feel like part of the reason they're so homophobic is they think all gay men want to have sex with them, but that's not the case. You see what I'm saying? Like, now you're making yourself the center of an issue that is not about you.
I feel like it's the same thing like with womanism. It's like they're like, oh well, it doesn't make me comfortable when you sit here and talk about this, and that. And it's like, it's not about you though. It's not about your comfort.
Exactly. And let's really look at why you feel uncomfortable in the first place.
Because you know it's true.
So, like, imagine when we dealing with, imagine how white people felt when Ruby Bridges was trying to go into school for the first time and all of them said, we don't feel comfortable with the black. Why don't you feel comfortable? You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't enough. I don't care about your comfort, but more deeply, why are you uncomfortable? And is your comfort really something that I'm doing, or is it something that you're doing?
America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you who mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry, yet today despite the dream, beaten, yet today, oh pioneers, I'm the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, that dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even now its mighty daring sings in every furrow turned, in every brick and stone that's made America the land it has become. For I'm the one who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and England's grassy lay and Poland's plain, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay. For all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we have sung, for all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung. The millions who have nothing for our pay except a dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again. The dream that never has been yet, and yet must be. The dream where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must bring back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot and graft of stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the plants, the mines, the rivers, the mountains, the endless plain, all stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Langston Hughes.
The 1968 games will also be remembered for the 200-metre final. On the final straight, Tommy Smith powered past teammate John Carlos, who had to be content with bronze behind Australia's Peter Norman. The drama of the race was nothing compared to what happened next. Smith and Carlos raised a single-gloved fist as a symbol of protest at the treatment of blacks in the USA. They were ordered out of the Olympic Village and were suspended by the US Olympic Committee. Smith would be the last US sprinter to climb the winner's podium for 16 years.
Queendom, Andre's boss antagonizes him about his multiracial background and tells Andre that he has no heritage. At first, Andre thinks to look past his boss's intolerance because he wants to keep this job for his daughter. Yet Andre decides he will not sacrifice his dignity for money. With racism being normalized in our society, how real is this sentiment? And in other words, how can blacks be dignified in their blackness and still navigate through white spaces?
Good God the Mighty. Well, I guess the word is parse certain parts of that, because like that's a lot.
Two of the characters in the book aren't just black, like they have other ethnic backgrounds. Like Monique's husband, he's a little bit of everything, and then Camille is biracial. So the first question is like, how can you navigate through a white space when you feel that someone superior to you is not really like tolerant?
How can you be successful in a space where you feel like your boss is not tolerant? Well, I think, first of all, that's something you need to get a feel for before you even accept a job or go into a place, because corporate culture and the business culture of a company or things like that, it really matters. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in just graduating, getting a job, getting money, that we don't think about the day-to-day life and the microaggressions that you have to deal with being in those spaces. And so, firstly, I would say do research and understand the culture of a place that you're about to walk into, because if you accept that job, you accept everything that comes with it. And then moving past that, ultimately, I would just say, from my own experience of it was a time I was in Pennsylvania and I was the only black person in the office, and it was hard. But one thing that really got me through was just constantly being aware of myself and finding things that allow me to invest in myself. So I really started doing more yoga. I started meditating more. I found things that would bring me to myself and find me closer to myself in the event I would be in a situation that is tempting me to step outside of myself. Because whenever, you allow someone to move your energy or move you outside of your sphere, what you normally do, that's when you lose. That's when the tolerance becomes a problem, or the lack thereof. It doesn't matter if people are intolerant. If you're there, you're there. If they hired you, then they hired you. But that's, you know what I mean? So it's really about finding ways to preserve yourself.
Okay. Have you seen the movie Get Out?
Yes.
And do you feel like this fetish with black people, especially white women, fetishizing black men is a form of racism?
Is a form of racism. I think it is a ramification of racism, but and stereotyping, you know what I mean? But some of the things, I think it's a manifestation of racism, like one of the trickle-down effects.
And why do you think that?
Oh, you saying why?
Yeah.
So it definitely stems from stereotypes, you know, like the belief that black men are, you know, packing or all these other things. And for black men, it's this subliminal thought of achieving a white woman, which at some point, you know, when you had Emmett Till getting murdered for just whistling, you know what I'm saying? I can imagine there's a sense of accomplishment that can come with, you know what I'm saying? Not just whistling at a white woman, but talking to her, kissing her, or doing something like that. But I think it just comes down to realizing who's really for you and who's not. Because to me, I think white women are some of the most, you know, just insidious creatures of all time. But, you know, I'll leave that alone.
Okay, well, this kind of ties into the next question. Because, you know, the fetish kind of eventually results in biracial children. So how do you feel like, do you feel like if someone is biracial, they should have to choose a side like black or white, or should they be able to just say that they're mixed? Or like, how do you feel about that?
You know what? I have been going back and forth about interracial relationships for a little while now, because at first I was like really against them, but now, you know, Kanye West is one of my favorite rappers, and we got one song we says, and all my niggas impregnate Bridget, so if she have a baby, she gonna make another nigga. So it's like, dang, in the long run, we don't lose, but we only lose if that baby ends up growing or identifying, or, you know what I'm saying, when you get a light skin, dark skin, and they start practicing, you know, toxic, stereotypical practices. But I mean, I don't know, because when it comes down to white people, I kind of be like, ugh. But if it's a person of color, I feel more comfortable with that. But I mean, I don't know. When it comes, I think it's all about the reasons you do what you do. If you only date white women because you just think they're this or they're that, I think that's trifling. You know what I mean? And so for that child, you know, if you only date white women because you think they're prettier than black girls, but you have a daughter that comes out and she's brown, you know what I mean? I think she should be able to identify with whoever she wants to identify with, as long as she recognizes that the world is going to identify her as black, and she's not ashamed of that. You know what I mean? Because blackness takes shapes in so many forms, and we look different. We can be anything, and really, everybody came from us. So if you are a person of color, you're black, because, you know, black is all the colors. So it's really about how technical you want to get with it. But for me, I think everybody came from black people, so I guess I'm kind of coming to a point where I'm cool with it. Dang, yep, I guess I'm cool with it. Yep.
I know, because personally, I was just like, no, I don't want, like, black men should only be with black women. But then it's like you realize that sometimes it's not even about that they're doing it as a social statement, that they actually genuinely find love outside of their race. I don't know.
Right.
It's kind of like a tricky subject, because, you know, it's some who do find love outside of their race, but then it's some who do it because they think it's like a statement.
Yeah. Like an accomplishment.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, I've traveled out the country so many times, and it's easy to go to Costa Rica and see this beautiful Costa Rican man, and just, you know what I'm saying, want to fall in love. I totally understand that feeling, and so for me, I get it, you know, and that's why it's kind of difficult, because you can't really say if people are together because they love each other, or if they're together just because of this, because of that. Ultimately, it'll show down the line in that relationship. But, you know, I think if you with somebody and your intentions are pure and you love them for real, and y'all have been through shit, and when shit hits the fan, you know, you're confident in the choice that they'll make, you know. And I think that's part of my issue with black men or black women dating white people, is that we're getting to a point where, you know, when it comes down to Civil War number 2, you know what I'm saying, you're going to have to pick a side. There is no in between, you know, and so you need to decide if you're going to be on the side of white supremacy or if you're going to be on the side of righteousness, for real.
And then the one thing I noticed, like sometimes when black people have white friends, it's just like, I don't know, I just feel like they don't really connect to them. Like, I saw this girl, she was hanging with these white girls, and her hair just looked so bad. I'm like, they don't know how to do your hair. And it's just, I don't know. I guess I feel like you have to have a cultural connection. Like, you can have friends outside of your race, but I don't know. It's tricky.
Yeah, I got a homegirl up here, you know, she always has, I don't know, we've been friends since like 5th grade, but I left and went to boarding school, and so she was just in Chicago, and she be kicking it with white people all the time, and it's just certain things that they do that in our culture is like, that shit's not really acceptable, and I guess it's the limit. Sometimes I think it's the limitations that we put on each other as black people that draws people outside of our community, and I can understand, because sometimes how white people. I used to have friends who dressed white or talked white, and we would make fun of them. So I can't really blame them for looking outside of our community when our community doesn't seek to open itself up and make them feel welcome. However, I do think that person, like you said, needs that cultural connection, because it just gets to a point where you kicking it with all these white folks and they really don't give a fuck about you. You know what I'm saying? Like what's the Obama daughter? I don't remember.
Malia.
Sasha.
You talking about the oldest one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think her name is Malia.
Okay, yeah. I just know it's one and two of them. See, the one that goes to Harvard, you see what I'm saying? She's surrounded by all the white people, and every week it's a picture coming out of her, different things like that, and it's just different cultural understandings that we have as black people that have shaped our existence in America. So the reason we don't post things on the internet is because we're used to the police looking for us. White people don't have those. They have the privilege of not being concerned with that. So naturally, you know what I'm saying, the way her friends or the way black people.
Did you hear about what Bill Maher said?
Something about house niggas or something.
Yeah, he said, because the guy was saying, you should come work in the field with us. And he's like, I can't do that. I'm a house nigga. And I'm just like, you can't say that. Well, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, that wasn't cool. And I think, he did what a lot of white liberals do. And that's how sometimes we mistake them for our quote-unquote allies. But when they say things like that, it's like, that's not really cool. And even now, I refuse to give a word so much power over me that it pulls me outside of my. If you have white friends that are comfortable saying it and don't feel no type of way about saying it, then to me that shows their character, and it shows that lack of respect for reverence of history and your ancestors and what they went through. And so, of course, like even at Tuskegee, we had that issue with TJ saying nigga and blue nigga, and I mean, I'm a turtle, you feel me? And I feel like because he's a turtle and he was saying blue nigga, and he was saying like that's our phrase, so he became a part of our organization. If we don't want him saying that, then as an organization, we need to switch what our phrase is. But to just make him have to stand out and not be able to say it because of other people and how they feel, I don't really care. And he don't mean nothing malicious bad to me, so it don't offend me for it.
And then how do you feel about people saying, black people say it, so we shouldn't get mad when white people say it?
Did white people do 400 years of slavery? Probably trying to remove the historical context behind the word. You know what I'm saying? And that is not cool at all. Just because if all black people jump off a cliff, is white people going to do it? You going to do it too? Like, that shit dumb. It's an excuse.
Because I guess when I hear that, it's the same thing like when people say, well, if black people are killing each other, why do you get mad when white people kill you? It's like, I mean, it's not okay that we're killing each other, but that doesn't justify them doing it.
And especially when you look at the reasons as to why we do that to each other. We're doing it as a response to hundreds and hundreds of years of discrimination and treatment that they've put on us.
Yeah, I feel like the root cause is the same for each one.
I can see that.
Because it's just like, the reason why we're sitting here killing each other is because we're in poverty, and then these situations were kind of inflicted upon us from white supremacists, and then from the other perspective is white supremacists killing us. So it's just like, it's the root cause, the same thing. But that was it for race. Do you have any more questions or comments?
I think it just, black people need to, we need to accept our blackness and stop looking at it as something that hinders us. And I think too often we allow people outside of our community to define us and put limitations on us and really define us and give us words to use for ourselves, you know what I mean, that we don't use. Like, even just being black, if you want to call yourself black or whatever it is, being African or whatever, there's pride in that. You know what I'm saying? And even, Charlotte, that's something else he was talking about in his book, is like, you have to, as long as you're ashamed of being black will always be bad. You know what I'm saying? You find and take pride in who you are, people can always take that and flip it against you. So until we as a people stand up and look at slavery not as something that sucked, but look at it as something that's proof that we're indestructible. It's proof that we're some of the smartest people on earth, because they didn't just take us for no reason. They took the smartest people, they took the strongest people, and we're still here, and we're resilient. And so taking those things and looking at them, just a shift in our narrative, really. I think we just need a shift in our narrative, and that will really be able to propel us so far.
Okay. So, with racism being normalized, how real is this sentiment? When you say this sentiment, you're talking in terms
of him quitting his job because he felt that his boss was being intolerant. How real do you think that is? Like, do you think that actually goes on where you have to deal with these racist managers or supervisors?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that goes without question. Because, you know, unfortunately, black people or people of color are still being stigmatized with the brown paper bag rule, which is, you know, if you're darker than this brown paper bag, most likely you won't get the job. And if you're lighter than the bag, you have a better chance at getting the job than your darker brother or sister. But at the same time, if a white person goes for the job, then both the light brother or sister and the dark brother or sister don't get the job. So that definitely goes on today without question. I'll even use myself as an example. I'm still in search of a job, but the searching part isn't really the hard part, because there are jobs everywhere, if you think about it. It's the securing of a job, you know? And then once you secure a job, get the job, the next phase of difficulty is now keeping and maintaining that job, because people will do anything to impede on your greatness and keep you from being and achieving greatness in your lane or in your field of whatever you're doing on that job. So as far as the part about being dignified in blackness, we have to do for self. That's just point blank, period. We have to do for self. And we have to be, I think, more supportive of others who are doing for self that look like us. You know, we've been so systematically trained, if you will, to be skeptical of those who are doing or making business moves that look like you and me, that, you know, we don't even think to support them. If a brother has a clothing store, you know, then we'll be like, oh, well, can I get a discount? Can I get a discount? Or we'll be like, oh, well, their prices are too high, or, oh, I don't like their customer service, or, oh, this, that, and the third. And we think of every single excuse in the book to not support them. But as soon as you see that commercial for Macy's about that 35% discount, or about, you know, a sale going on, or about that new Gucci bag, or about that new Fendi bag, or about that new Gucci belt, or about that new Fendi belt, you jump. You shout. The new Jordan 11s are coming out, you getting ready to support. Because to be honest, for one, as far as that last example is concerned, Jordan, as dark as he is on the outside, is a Negropean as far as I'm concerned. And you could take that to the bank.
Wait, he's a what?
And say, Allende, huh?
Is a what?
A Negropean.
Like a
in
Negro European?
with a European mindset.
That's a new one.
Yeah. He's a Negropean. Not a European, a Negropean. So we have to start being supportive, not just of brothers and sisters, but we also have to be supportive of those who are in our own community that look like us, who are also about the business of us. Jordan isn't about the business of black people, because if he was, he would have discontinued the making of Jordans, seeing as how a brother dies in the street over Jordans or over shoes, or because they have those shoes on, you know, they get incarcerated or whatever the case may be. He knows what's going on. He would say, you know what? I got you. Stop production. But he's too worried about, you know, dead presidents. So, I know that's kind of deep and kind of a lot, but yeah, the racism found in jobs is definitely real. That sentiment is real, without a doubt. And blacks can be dignified in their blackness by doing for self. And if anyone tries to keep us from doing for self, then really before they even try to make the moves to come at us, because we know they will, we have to look into the legal rights that we have as quote-unquote citizens in the United States of America to, or worldwide, to do everything in our power to be legally set and on track, so that if anyone tries anything, we're like, no, because according to this, that, and the third, I'm within my right to do this. And ABC and 1, 2, 3, and you're talking about 2 plus 2 is 5 when it's really 4. So that's what I think as my answer to that question.
Have you seen the movie Get Out?
Yes.
Okay.
Twice.
So it's about the next question is basically saying how there's this fetish with black people, and in the book, Camille's mother, Amy, was a participant in this fetish, having 4 black children by 3 different black men. Do you see this as a form of racism? Why or why not?
Well, do I see it as a form of racism? I would say that it is definitely a fetish. For some reason, you know, it's a trend or an occurring trend nowadays, you know, for mixed babies to be made into a fetish or romanticized beyond the bounds of it's just, you know, they're a lighter black child. Would I say it's racist? For me, you would have to parse what racist or what racism is, which is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on a belief that one's own race is superior. So, based on that definition, technically, yes, it is. Because for you to be obsessed and romanticize or romanticizing over mixed babies, but you find fault with the black or dark-skinned baby, you know, people will say that's colorism, but really, colorism is just racism within the same race, or within the same ethnicity, if you will. So, yes, it's racist. And unfortunately, though it is that people don't understand that. So, yeah, it definitely is a form of racism. Like colorism is a form of racism. And if someone sees, you know, say a black mother is obsessed, or a black woman or a black man is obsessed over a mixed baby, so they have a white counterpart. Yeah, that, though, you know, people may label that more colorism than racism, colorism is still a sect of racism. Racism is still at the root of that situation. So, yes, I do see that as a form of racism.
Okay. Then the next question is about Monique. Okay, so she charges April Spring with being a self-hating biracial who is black for convenience but white for privilege. Because Monique feels that April Spring was only trying to profit off the black part of herself but ultimately hated it. What is your take on biracialism? And do you think people who belong to two racial groups should be able to appeal to both sides, or should they have to choose a race?
That's a good question. So this character, April Spring, she's a person that dislikes her blackness.
Yeah, because she's okay, so in the context of the story, she doesn't really quote unquote look black. So she was kind of appealing to the white side, but she still had that black heritage. And Monique felt that April was only saying, "Oh, I'm black," because she felt like she could profit off of it. And because you know how there's this cultural appropriation and there's a profit in black culture. And that's how Monique kind of perceived April's actions, because April also had a hair care business, but the reason that it failed was because her consumers perceived her as white because of how she appeared.
So basically, the reverse of Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, kind of.
That.
It's like, yeah,
In a-
it's kind
in a
of,
way,
yeah.
in a way, yeah.
It's kind of like she's
That's-
passing as white,
Yeah.
but she still wants to say,
Well-
"Oh, but I'm black."
Well, well, let's deal with the first question. My take on
Biracialism.
biracialism. Well, for starters, you know, my father is a product of a Caucasian mother and a black man. So, in that regard, he is biracial. And technically, a person who is biracial, I was actually having this conversation with one of my friends last year, in like my first semester of school, and she was saying, you know, biracial children are considered black children who have whose you know parents are either black and white, or their grandparents are black and white. Now, by her definition, that would make me biracial as well. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you I don't see myself as biracial at all. Like, do I acknowledge that there's Caucasian blood? Yes. Do I like it? Not so much. Do I think Martin Luther King died for that? No, not really. But in all seriousness, I am in no position to judge a person based on who they like or dislike, honestly. If a white person is honestly in love with a black person and vice versa, then I am not allowed to say, oh, you can't do that. Now, do I prefer that black people intermingle and marry with black people and white people with white people? Yes, I strongly agree with that. And those who are quote-unquote biracial, to me, it like, especially for black children, they're still going to be considered black. Like, biracial isn't a skin color, if that makes sense. Like, no one's going to look at a person and say, you know, what color are you? Oh, I'm biracial. That's not how that works. Like, to put it very simply, too, a bullet doesn't ask the question whether you have white blood in you. And if the answer is yes, then, you know, it curves around you like you're some type of walking immunity. Regardless to if you do or not, especially in the black community, if you black, you black. It's almost like a one-drop rule. So, as far as my, as far as that is concerned, you know, I don't really agree with the whole quote-unquote biracial. My take on biracialism is not biased, I guess would be the word. Or it's not like, oh, they're great, you know. And of course, you know, my father, like I say, is quote-unquote biracial. But I don't call my father biracial. I call him a black man, though his mother is white. The dominant stays dominant. If you have coffee, and like me, you know, you have to have that morning cup, and you go and pour the coffee in, and then you get you some cream, and you pour the cream in. You don't call that, oh, this is cream and coffee. You just say it's coffee. You don't say that coffee is biracial. You say it's coffee. So the dominant always stays dominant. No matter how much recessive you put in it, it will remain dominant to the very end. Now, as far as whether I think people who belong to two racial groups should be able to appeal to both sides or choose a race, to be honest, me personally, you can't play, I would think yes. That's like asking a person to be both at the same time. To me, as far as being a product of a black parent and a white parent, being told to acknowledge and accept and be both is like that's like trying to say, oh well, you know, you're part angel but also part demon. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not, it doesn't it doesn't register. Like you can't serve two masters. It's either one or the other. Because then, like the character, you flip-flop for your own self-benefit, regardless of what others go through. Because of because of your selfishness, instead of doing what's best for the whole, or whatever the case may be, you flip-flop for your own personal gain. That's why I said in the beginning, it's like Rachel Dolezal. So yeah, it's a not necessarily hard. It's a challenging subject as far as being biracial in America, because people they don't know how to identify or whom to identify with, and it can be difficult. It can be emotional. It can be all those things. But I think especially in this day and age, if you have a parent who is black, you know, you're tied to a certain family of who is a product of a long line of success and royalty, but also oppression. And it's because of that type of oppression that, at least to a person like me, I would favor that oppressed side a little more, because what's right is right. And if people are going to actually say all lives matter, then the part of me that is oppressed has to matter more to me in order for that to stand true. Because if it doesn't, then a person can't successfully be biracial, because society negates one side and accepts the other. So that's all I would say for that.
Okay, that's a good answer. Long-winded, but it was a good answer. It was really in-depth. Andre has these multiple heritages, as like his mother is Ethiopian and Italian, and his dad has both Jamaican and Mexican ancestry. And Monique and Andre's daughter is going to inherit those, but Monique says despite that, she will raise her daughter as a black child. And this is a subliminal message that blackness is not a hindrance, but something worthy of being embraced. Do you think that this was necessary for Monique to do as a parent?
Yes. First of all, let's be clear. Most, if not all, of those ethnic groups mentioned come from or are of the original people. Jamaicans are still black. Like, to be Jamaican identifies more with the culture of where you come from or who you are. To be part Italian, that deals with more so the culture. And, you know, I could be wrong, but based on what I've seen, you know, you could be of that culture, but you're still black. So for her to say she's going to raise her daughter as a black child, rightfully so, because In case people forgot, like I said, Jamaicans 7 out of 10 times, not percent, but out of 10 times, Jamaicans are black. Mexicans are a part of the original family. And by original family, I mean those who were here on the planet first, who historically we know were not white people. So, yeah, raise that child to be black and raise that child to be appreciative of all the cultures that are within that child. But let that child know of a surety that it is without a doubt a black child. Because when that child goes outside, and into the world, and society starts putting the labels on him or him.
Her.
Yeah, her. I kind of went to a more general sense of all children with that.
Okay.
Type of situation, yeah. But when you have a child like that, that child, with those in particular, is that child going to be seen as a white child or a black child? Regardless, no one has any type of background, nothing. Is that child going to be seen as a white child or a black child? Black. So if society already puts a label on what you are and who you are, then they don't have no type of background, no type of anything. But if you got hair like lamb's wool or a little bit straighter wool, or skin like burnt brass, I think you black. But that's just me, you know.
And I think that's what, like, that's kind of her whole message. Because as you said, like, the child is going to be probably, like, 75% or predominantly black. And it's just, like, I get from Monique's perspective, she feels like that people kind of put like, mixed children on a pedestal. And she doesn't want to do that. Like, even though her husband is mixed, she doesn't want to make it seem like that makes her better. It's just a part of her. It's not going to, like,
right.
It doesn't negate any of the other parts of her that aren't necessarily mixed.
And let's also remember, the original Italians or the Sicilians, the first Sicilians were dark-skinned. They were brown. So even in her ethnic background, being in Italy or being Italian, the Italians, from what I've read, are like you know how you have a cousin, right? And that cousin is like really light, and it's like they're both of that child of that cousin of yours. Their parents are both like black, but like they just came out light. They came out the womb looking light. The Italians, as far as like the early Sicilians are concerned, like they were like that cousin that was like a little bit lighter, but would still pass for black. They were those people. So, just to put that out there.
Questions. The context for this one is that Andre has a multi-ethnic background. His father has Jamaican and Mexican descent, while his mother has Ethiopian and Italian descent. Because of this, Andre struggles to find his place and struggles with his identity. Camille, who is biracial, expatriated herself from the white side of her family due to their microaggressions, and she feels that her mother, who's white, only had black children to spite her parents.
Girl, barely keep a job now. So yeah, like I told you, like I share such an opinion about things. Like I got into it with one of my coworkers because she was new and was like, you know, if I wanted to be an all white lives matter, it would be racist. And I was trying to explain myself, and I couldn't even verbalize how I felt, like, because I was so pissed off. And like I definitely would. Like recently, like I kind of didn't get a call back from this job I had started at a restaurant because like the manager was treating the staff like shit, and I felt like I was the only one that was noticing it enough to care enough to speak up about it. And though it wasn't really around race, they were like Southern white people. Though it wasn't really about race, like I think standing up for your values in general are period like an important fact of life, you know. And I think it's also hard because, you know, what if you are working like at a multi-million-dollar company like VH1 or BET, where like you're superior, you know what I'm saying? Like when I try to put things into perspective especially with the entertainment business that I want to go into, you know what I'm saying? That's all politics and stuff where like you're going to have to put your values aside sometimes, or at least that's what they tell us. But if I was being told, like, yeah, I would have to leave because I feel like at the end of the day, like, what's the point of working a job like you can't have peace at, you know what I mean? Like I done went to college for how many years? It's different when we work these jobs now through college, but I done went to college, I done paid my dues, and you telling me I still gotta work a job where like I can't be respected and I have to abandon my values. The best way to get around that is to work for yourself. So which is why that's something I want to work on. Like I can't work for people, especially under those conditions. So yeah, I would have left. I hate working for people. Like I can't, because I have too much of a mouth. Like you can't treat me bad and not expect me to say anything. Like I just can't do it.
Yeah, I agree. Like that's another problem I have with like authority. It's just like if you gonna be my superior, you have to be smarter than me. Like with a recent job, it's like my boss, I just felt like he was an idiot, and it just it's just like I can't answer to you if you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Women are very catty and very, you know, very like, oh, I like your hair, but then I'll talk about you, like, you know what I mean? Like very jealous people, very like, and I'll work with a bunch of people that I just feel like I'm better than. I'm sorry if that sounds terrible. And it's like, I can't respect y'all as my authorities, and I don't hate my boss, but like some of my other superiors, like I just look at them and I'm like, you're just mad. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't deal with authority. Like it's not that I don't think it's that I can't deal with authority. I think people who have authority can't deal with authority. And that, like, when they try to misplace it on people, like, if a person doesn't accept it, then they're automatically wrong. It's not that I have an issue with authority. I have a problem with misappropriated authority. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. Most people that have authority have misappropriated authority. Like, I can't deal with it.
Should people who belong to two racial groups be able to appeal to both sides, or should they have to choose?
Yes, the fuck, yes. Like I swear to God, like it's hard because you don't blend. You blend everywhere, but you don't fit anywhere. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't think you should ever have to choose. Now, granted, I grew up in a black family, so I kind of chose regardless. But like from the outside looking in, like I don't really get accepted by either.
Although Amelia will inherit Andre's multiple heritages, Monique says that she will raise Amelia as a black child. Do you think that that's necessary?
Wait, Andre White?
No, Andre, he's like everything. Cause okay, so his dad is Jamaican and Mexican, and his mom is Ethiopian and Italian. So it's just like, even though the daughter is going to be quote unquote mixed, Monique is still going to like remind her that she's still black no matter what. And I said, do you think that's necessary?
I think it's wrong of her to be like, well, I'm going to raise her as a black child. No, raise her as what she is, but tell her not to be ashamed of her black side because of the way the world's going to view her. You know? I feel like you shouldn't put an emphasis, raise them as what they are. Like, because I still claim I'm black, you know, but then like sometimes they're like, well, I'm black and I'm Indian, but like my everyday mentality is that I'm black because that's what I've been raised as. But like I identify as Indian, I identify as black and Indian, and I identify as black. I identify as what I am. Now what I relate to is different. You know what I'm saying? Because the world is gonna ostracize me more for being black than being Indian. You know what I'm saying? Teach them not to be ashamed of what's gonna be shamed. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense.
Okay, because like the reason she did it is not like I guess not to ostracize the other parts, but she just feels like, you know, there's really like this fetish. Like, do you understand? Like, you know how some people like, oh yeah, I want a mixed baby, this, and that.
Yeah, no. She wants to reaffirm people already know when they meet me. Like people who know like that name, they be like, oh, like what is that? Or they know you're Arabic, or you know, like. But I appear as something different than what my name says I am. So it's like that's what I mean when I say make sure you don't like. Because the world wants these mixed children because they don't want to take the black child and affirm them. So it's like, yeah, affirm her, make her, you know, something good, but don't do it to the point that you really disconnect her from all that she really is, you know?
That's true. And then how do you feel like, I guess, how do you shape your identity? Because, like, something that Andre struggles with is, like, like how you said, it's hard for you to find a side. And then he has, like, multiple sides. So it's like, how do you navigate?
You don't. Because for the rest of your life, you'll always be asked, like, what are you? And as long as you're what you are, you'll always have to explain that. You'll never truly get to be like, oh, well, you know, like, you don't. I mean, from my personal, like, experiences, unless you come up with the luxury of being raised with both heritage in your family, you never really, like, you don't. I've never found my way. I've never really found a place that I fit, and I feel like because I never fit anywhere. Like, you don't. Because for the rest of your life, that's what and for somebody who's, it might be a little bit less hard for him if he just, like, looks black, you know, or, like, he looks like he's, like, black and white, so he don't always have to explain everything he comes from. Like, I feel like it's easier when you're multicultural than when you're biracial. Because when you're multicultural, you're not going to have, like, Chinese, Ethiopians, and Africans all mad at you at the same time because they're not going to be able to tell what you are. But, like, when you're Indian and black and it's very clear what your two things are, I think it narrows it down for people to have something to say. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you hella racist, like, I really want to do my little ancestry thing because I know it's got to be way more in there than what I think it is. I really think there is. Like, I'm starting to look Asian in the face. Like, it's a lot going on in me. And, like, but when I find all that out, I'm not going to have to deal with all those groups having to say something. People go with, like, what your most apparent thing is. So if he's all that, but he still just looks black and Hispanic, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to deal with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, okay, so you know Logic, the rapper?
Yeah, he irritates me sometimes, because I just listened to one of his songs, and, like, it blew me.
Why do you say that?
He made a song about, like, not knowing what white privilege was or whatever, and that kind of blew me to finish.
Oh, I was gonna say, I know, like, he said, like, he looks white, but he identifies with black. So I guess, how do you feel about that, since you do, since you're biracial?
Well, see, it's different because, like I said, it depends on what you're mixed with. Because, like, if, like, in my case, if you're, like, if you're something where, like, it's very apparent that you're black, but they don't know what the other thing is, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm black and Indian, but people don't necessarily always know that it's Indian. Sometimes they think it's Hispanic, or they be like, well, I knew you were black, but I didn't know what the other one was. That's what a lot of people say to me. In his case, you wouldn't really know he was black and white, to be honest. He looks like he's just white, and I feel like I said, I don't really identify as biracial. Like, I claim it. If you ask me, but, like, my mentality is that I'm black because that's who I was raised with, you know what I'm saying? But I do know I'm biracial. In his case, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I still don't avoid being biracial. Like, I still claim both of them. Like, I claim everything. I disclaim nothing. You get what I'm saying? So, like, people, I'm like, yeah, I'm biracial. You know, I'm black, or, like, my mom's black or whatever like that. But I carry myself as different. You know what I'm saying? Like, with him, I feel like it's to low-key get a pass, to be honest. Like, I'm not taking that away from him because most people don't look at biracial people and be like, oh, you're black. They don't. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, like, with him, I don't know. Like, he doesn't identify with being biracial at all.
I think he does. I guess he said people want him to choose, like, black or white, and he identifies as mixed. But I like the line with white privilege. I agree with you. I feel like he's like, what is white privilege? But it's just like,
you know what the hell white privilege is because you walk through, because I'm not like you may feel the same type of passion about certain issues, but that don't mean you don't walk through life differently than the next person.
Because I know
hella light-skinned people walk through life way different than darker people.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Because like at first I was just like, light privilege, like I didn't see that because I'm just like, we still all go through the same issues, but I started to think about it, and it's just like, yes, we go through the same issues, but if you were like if I was darker, those issues would be compounded on top of like the color complex.
Yep.
So it's like with him, it's just like he does go through the issues because they still, like, the white side still sees him as black, but he still has like the quote unquote advantage because he can pass as white.
Exactly. So I don't really know. That's a torn issue because, like I said, I don't identify as black. So it's literally however I feel that day. Sometimes I identify and I definitely act, I quote unquote, like my morals and things like that are rooted in like being black. But then I also will never shun what I am. So it's kind of hard. Like I told you before, like you never really navigate your identification system. Like that's a really difficult one. I don't really know. Like I feel like I should always be able to am, but at the same time, like I feel like I said, it does change context depending on what you are. Because when you're someone who appears as white and you probably get treated as if you're white, it's different from the black side. But then the white side is like a mixed breed, so it's kind of hard.
Is it necessary to put so much emphasis on race?
Like when you were talking about the Miss USA chick, I do think race should have had something to do with what she was saying, because whether we want to deal with it or not, we walk through the world differently than white people. We need health care. We are the more impoverished part. We are the impoverished majority versus the wealthy minority. So, yes, race should have been a factor in her thoughts because she needs to think about how a particular issue is going to affect her people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just ignore race in some things. Like, you can't ignore race when you talk about healthcare and poverty because it does affect one group more than it does the other. And people love to try to ignore it. Well, no, it's not just about race. It's about class. But the thing is, class is related to race. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you do have to pay attention to it. You can't ignore it. As much as we want to, you can't.
That's true. But my thing is, like, with Miss USA, I just felt like I disagree with her. And I agree with what you're saying where healthcare is something that's very important to our community. But I also disagree with people saying, let's kick her out. Let's kick her out of the black community. Because it's just like, no, every black person is not going to have the same mentality. And it's like, you have to listen to these people. And if you disagree, tell them, this is why this is important. This is why we need health care. Because it's like, ultimately, she might not understand because of her classism, because she's in a privileged class.
And that's where it's an issue, though. And that's why I do think she could get kicked out of the black community, because 9 times out of 10, that's the same person that turns around and looks down on other black people. Like, people tell me all the time, like, oh, you know, you're stuck up, you act white. Like, I'm like, no, I don't have a white mentality. I'm just neutral. Like, I'm able to identify flaws in my community as well as in other communities. And that's the problem. I think where the race card is an issue is because sometimes we use the race card as a handicap to not identify our own responsibilities. But I also think that the race card has to be brought into the discussion as to how we got to be in certain places. You get what I'm saying? And like with her, I feel like she was trying, like she got on TV and was like, I stand behind what I'm talking about. Like, we are Americans. People that try to disassociate themselves from the race issue. And that's what pissed me off about her. Like, let's not act like your race isn't suffering from the issue you chose to speak on. You get what I'm saying? And for you to get on a platform and to speak, well, as a government person and as a person that has to work for my healthcare, I definitely think it's a privilege. But what about people where it needs to be a necessity? You get what I'm saying? Like, she just, to me, seemed to have tried to, like, give the more politically correct response, which was the white response. if you ask me.
Yeah, I definitely agree because it's just like, but I guess I feel like we kind of shun black people when they're more conservative in their thoughts, and it's not that I agree with them because I do identify with more of the liberal politics, but it's like we can't I guess I feel like we can't expect everyone to think the same way, and maybe they'll approach it differently. Like what she said was problematic, but it's like we can't just, I guess we can't be so quick to react. I guess we have to listen to what she's saying and tell her why what she's saying is incorrect or how what she's saying is like negatively affecting her community.
I feel like if she wanted to know that, she would. Didn't she went to a HBCU?
Yeah,
She,
so it's just,
she knows that.
it doesn't make sense.
Even at places like Howard, even at HBCUs, you still have the issue of classism because black people cannot imagine what it's like to be like other black people. Like, to me, she's just I don't want to use, for lack of better words, I just think that was a very spoiled, unaware, unconnected point of view to have. You get what I'm saying? And like, I feel like if she was connected to her community, she would understand why it was an issue. Now, it's not to say we don't have to educate her, but like, I do think black people get shunned as conservatives because conservatives, like, let's be real, like, conservative opinions are often opinions that are beneficial to non-people of color. And I think that's why you have to look, and that's why this is where I do feel like race has to be emphasized. On our part, I feel like we shouldn't always emphasize race on things we could control. We shouldn't always assume that, you know, we ain't never going to get no opportunity because we black if we not even out there in school. You get what I'm saying? But in things like this, where people try to act like race is not a factor when it very much is, conservative policies benefit the rich in a larger realm. But if you look at the more rich people in the world, they don't look like us. You get what I'm saying? And I think that's why race becomes an issue, because race does not just, it'd be different if it was the same amount of people as it is in jail, white as it is black. But when you have 70 to 60% of people incarcerated as black and then 20% white and like 3% other, you know what I'm saying? You do have to wonder, okay, why is race being associated with these point of views? I cannot be friends with somebody who voted for Trump because I cannot be friends with somebody who endorsed his values and the people they affected. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, I cannot be happy with a person who supports conservative opinions because I know further down the line, those conservative opinions have affected this side of the spectrum. You get what I'm saying? It'd be different if a conservative opinion affected everyone. But when conservative point of views typically affect our people, how could you have that opinion? How could I support something that's endorsing the degradation of my community? I can't do that. I can't.
I guess like with that, I feel like I agree with you completely, and that's why I don't identify with being conservative. But my thing is just like, even with the liberal ideology, there are problems within that one too. I just feel like we have to forge our own, opinions, and we can't be monolithic.
Culturally, we teach our kids differently, right? And white people are known to treat their kids how to swim like very early. So there's this video of this mom, like, I think like it's getting a little bit more popular in our community, where like, you know, teaching them and throwing them in the water at babies and watching them float or whatever. And I was like, see, that's why. And this girl was like, I'm not my child. I was like, well, why not? Like, it's a method of teaching them early, and it's natural, and it's a method that the black community shuns me, because if they didn't, you know, it's a true thing that we really don't know how to swim like that, like dead ass. Like, I can't swim. Can you swim?
No.
No, right, exactly. And I was like, see, that's why we don't know how to swim. And she was like, no, you don't know how to swim. I know how to swim. And I'm like, damn, like, and I feel like if I tell her, like, no, culturally, like, we typically don't know how to swim because we don't embrace methods different than what we know, you know what I'm saying, as a culture, I feel like it's going to bring me some heat, and I don't feel like arguing with nobody right now.
Yeah, because they're going to be like, oh, why would you say that? Why would you assume? But it's like, it's not assuming. If it's something that you see, like, a lot of black people genuinely don't know how to swim. And it's not even being ignorant. It's just, making a
serious
making a observation.
I feel like that. Dead ass, like, oh, my boyfriend can't swim, his mama can't swim, my mama, like, Monique slaughtered one of the members from Love and Hip Hop was like embracing it, and she was like, if black people stop doing dumb, like, you know, stop being so scared, and like, she said it wrong, but she had a point. Like, we don't embrace different methods, we don't embrace methods different than what we know culturally. You get what I'm saying? And it's like,
yeah.
And I feel like somebody gonna try to treat me, but like, I don't feel like arguing. Like, I really just don't, because it's true. And I feel like, and to see the fact that people cannot pull themselves out and to see where I'm coming from a general standpoint, that's another thing I'm talking about.
I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. He watches me.
Hello?
Well, how you doing? What's up?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Monique is pregnant when Andre proposes to her, so she has not practiced abstinence. Yet she still believes in God and prays to him when she experiences moments of deep anguish. Would you consider her more spiritual than religious? And why?
Can you repeat that again?
Okay, so Monique is pregnant when Andre, who's her fiance, proposes to her, so she has not practiced abstinence, yet she still believes in God and prays to him when she experiences moments of deep anguish. So I said, would you consider her more spiritual than religious, and why?
I think religion comes from the active practice of going to a place of worship in order to, I want to say, seek a divine lesson. Spirituality is more personal, and I feel like she is a lot more spiritual than religious. Because I mean, like, she focuses more on her personal relationship with God, and you know, and for someone in her situation, I would understand why she's more spiritual, because if there are some things that she's not ready to, I want to say, talk to other people about, but she can deal with it within herself, and that, you know, she can pray about and reason with to God, then I feel as though that's all. If she knows herself and if she knows places in which that she can grow, so that, you know, she's a lot more spiritual than anything else.
Okay. I like that, because the whole story is about her being an entrepreneur, but it's like you never really think about how you can kind of be an entrepreneur or like a self-starter within religion. Like, you can kind of have your own set of beliefs instead of kind of following what everyone else does. So that's a good perspective on it. And then the next one is that many religions propel the man as the leader of a woman, which may not sit well with some who support women's empowerment because they feel that this ideology disempowers women. And in Mosmic's queendom, Monique's feminist views become apparent. So how can a woman who believes so strongly in the empowerment of women find her place in a religion?
For something like that, I feel that it's given the stereotypical or the supposed standard and whatnot. And so I feel as though that for her, like I said in the previous question, you know, she's more spiritual than religious. However, when your practices say one thing, it's more so giving you the general guidelines. Like, you know, the Bible is basically basic instruction. You know, everything is as it is, as it's given. So whatever you take out of the Bible or whatever you read within the context of it, then it's just within the book. And I feel as though that it's based on this focus of men being, running everything and whatnot, because, that's the story. That's how it was written. However, it's not how things are supposed to be. I feel though like the Bible gives us multiple suggestions on how to live life right, knowing that this flesh, can do whatever it does. However, it's instructions for how to do, the supposed right thing. And sometimes the man isn't always right. So it's almost as if like it's just giving guidelines. And so I think the conflict comes from like over interpreting biblical teachings. Because obviously, it's an old book and whatnot, and it gives us these instructions and these guidelines for different things and how to approach different situations and whatnot. However, it doesn't have necessarily all the answers. It's more of a skeleton that I want to say gives structure to our bodies. That's more so what the Bible serves as. So, I would see what the conflict for her, to have that one, a female empowerment. So, it more so is, how can I say this? With the Bible being more so instructional than anything else, I feel that she has a right, though, to talk about, this over-focus in men and with a need to shift the focus to women, so.
Monique considers herself Christian because she was raised that way, but she is seen leaning more towards spirituality in the novels, and she doesn't attend church or read the Bible. And I say, do you subscribe to any religion, and was this religion your choice, or was it the religion of your parents?
I feel like I'm more spiritual. I read the Bible occasionally if I really, 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 really don't have everything put together in my mind and whatnot. So, my religion was prescribed by my parents. However, I lean more towards spirituality because it was just like I would go into church and I just, see the same old people, same old faces, really expect a different message every Sunday. But then there are some days when the messages would repeat, and I'm just like, wait a minute now. It seems like this thing is in a loop and whatnot, and, it kind of just seemed like not common sense, but it's more so like, you kind of have to live life in order to talk about life, in order to, navigate through different circumstances. So, the reason why I'm leaning more towards, spirituality is because I feel like my relationship with God is not only personal, but, I'll talk about somebody to it one-on-one, but, I don't have to, wild out in front of folks, and show that, I'm worthy. I know I'm worthy. I don't have to show out and, put on a show for folks or whatnot. I don't mind volunteering for the church and I don't mind helping out type deal, but, you ain't got to be extra with it. Just kind of have to, I feel like you have to worry about things and navigate them on your own because we're all at different places, we're all in different spaces. And if we need guys, then we should ask for it.
So some context for religion is that it's a theme in both Mo's Mix and Mo's Mixed Queendom. And in Mo's Mix, Charlotta Ross is a Bible-thumping Christian who has tried to cure her son and daughter of rebellious womanhood and homosexuality respect. Do you believe that some people are averse to the church? And do you think it's because society has become overly secular?
Well, I would say it's like that because the church was introduced to black people in slavery and colonization. Like that song, Redbone says, "Stay woke." Black people in particular, oppressed people in general, but black people in particular, are getting a little too conscious to be, caught in the, or ensnared by the falsehoods of the Bible and of Christianity. A religion that is giving a person a better slave isn't a religion of God. Now, in that same breath, I am not bashing Christianity whatsoever. Because I was taught that a good Christian is a good Muslim, and a good Muslim is a good Christian. And me being a Muslim, I know that to be a Muslim is one who submits his or her will to do the will of God. So if a good Muslim is a good Christian, a Christian is one who is crystallized in the teachings of God through his messenger, Jesus Christ. It's one and the same when executed correctly. But our people, for the most part, are caught up in the slave Christianity. The Christianity that says the Jesus of 2,000 years ago is going to physically raise from the dead and save all of mankind. The Christianity that says turn the other cheek. That's not the proper way to teach the Word of God found in the Gospel. It said that Jesus would be coming back with a sword dripping in blood. So we don't have time to be preaching about a Jesus who is like a lover of all mankind or a lover of everybody. And, you know, he even loves the devil and, like, no.
Was your religion your choice, or was it the religion of your parents?
Mine, as in mine?
Yeah, your religion specifically.
For me, it's kind of a special or unique case. Because for me, you know, I was born in the Nation of Islam, and being born in the Nation of Islam, of course, you know, my parents being Muslim, they weren't born into Islam. They converted, and then, you know, after they converted, they had me, and they raised me in Islam. So I was raised in that religion all my life, though I had also, you know, heard and you know, seen Christians, of course. Like, they don't just put me in a box away from Christians. You know, my grandmothers, my grandfathers, most of my family is Christian. So at first, yes, the religion was just being taught to me, like, you know, it usually is. However, I say that it's rare for me because, a unique situation for me, because in the nation, though you can be born in the Nation of Islam or be born a Muslim, like a lot of those born in the Nation of Islam, or like all of those, you have to do what's called register. And to register means that, you know, yeah, whether you have been, you know, born in the nation or not, are you committed and dedicated to this work of resurrecting the mentally and spiritually dead people? Are you dedicated to being a true Muslim, which, as I said before, is one who submits his or her will to do the will of God? So, And that cutoff, like that cutoff age, quote unquote, is like between 16 and 18. Now I'm 19, and I'm actually in the process of getting registered. So I would say for a minute, it was just a religion my parents were doing. Now, never did I ever say, you know, this isn't for me or I don't believe in this. Not true at all. I always knew that Islam was my religion. If I had to put, you know, something down on a piece of paper or a document, and it asked me, you know, what religion do you identify with, I would always and will always say Islam, regardless of whether I get registered or not. But that process of getting registered in the Nation of Islam is key, because it means that you're actively submitting your will. You're actively striving. You know, people can say, "Oh, I'm striving to do this. I'm trying to do this." Yeah, they say that, but are they actively involved and engaged in trying to do better, in trying to be an upright man and an upright woman and live the life according to the way that God has said to live it? Not really. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay, so for the last part, you said that people should live their life according to the way that God intended it to be. What do you think are some factors that make people stray from this righteous path?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Some factors, I would say, you know, I would say is and continues to be the doctrine and ideology of white supremacy, because that doctrine, the doctrine of supremacy, only came around when the Caucasian came around. If you go back in history, there was always countries or tribes trying to be superior, of course. Survival of the fittest. But supremacy, that's you know, that's superiority to everyone, but it's a system of superiority. That's the difference between supremacy and superiority. You can be superior, but at the end of the day, that superiority isn't for keeps. It's like, all right, anyone can really grab the crown. And supremacy, not only do you have the crown, but you've set up a system against everyone who does not look like you or think like you or talk like you, to whereas now everything is in you and your people's favor systematically. And anyone who doesn't look like you, who doesn't think like you, is cast to the side or given, you know, the seconds or the thirds or the fourths or the crumbs of what's on your dinner table.
Hello. Hey, this is Giovanna.
Hey, Giovanna.
Hey. The way that I understand it is spiritual being you believe in God, but you don't have a religion. And religious means that you believe in God and you also have a religion.
Okay. You can still not be abstinent and still be religious. And, okay, she believes in God, so she can also be spiritual. But, I mean, you know, although we are religious, we it's something, yeah, that we don't practice on a day-to-day basis because, I mean, that's just impossible. Crap. Let's see. I guess I would consider her religious. I guess I would. Because there are some things that, you know, even though she doesn't practice abstinence, she probably still does carry herself in a godly way.
And how would you define
that makes sense.
Carrying yourself in a godly way?
Well, carry yourself in a godly way would be to obey the word of God, which is the Bible, of course. But you also have to take into account, okay, instead of obeying the Bible, obey and follow as much as you can. Like, we all strive to be, or we should all strive to be, you know, as close to God as possible. But because we are human, and we will never be, you know, like God. So that's why people say, like, Christ-like, because we know that we will never reach the full potential. If that makes sense. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you and your spouse, if you were to get married and your spouse did something that you felt wasn't really within the marriage, like, okay, so if your spouse cheated on you, would you divorce them even if it's quote unquote against your religion?
Would I divorce him because he cheated?
Yeah, even though it's
Since
against
cheating
your
is
religion.
against my religion?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not going to divorce a man solely on his mistakes. Let me see. Because that's heavy. If he was sorry for what he did and he promised not to do it again, like if he learned his lesson that he shouldn't do it, and he realizes the wrong that he has done, and he's genuinely sorry for it, and is able and willing to get back on the right track with me, then I probably wouldn't divorce him, because there have been couples who, you know, stuff happens, but they're able to make it through it because they love each other enough to work it out. But it takes two to work it out. And if I'm doing more than you, or if I see that you really don't have any remorse for what you've done, then that's a problem. Then you have to more than likely take that next step.
I can see that, but why do you think some people can't really I know some people, if their spouse cheats on them, they would just leave, like they're not going to work it out. Why do you think that they do that instead of trying to work it out?
Maybe because I don't want to say that they hold themselves to a higher standard, because I do have high standards and expectations, but maybe they have more, maybe I have more tolerance and patience than they do. So, like, I'm speaking for myself when I just gave that answer. So, and I have a high level of tolerance and patience for people. So I'm able to, give more chances, or, give them more time to handle a situation. So maybe this particular person that you're asking about doesn't have that level. Or maybe it's because they've been down this road before
and maybe they've experienced it more than once in their marriage, too. It could be that. So they thought that they were good, they thought that they were sorry, they thought that they wouldn't do it anymore, and then they turned around and did it again, and again, and again, and they got fed up. That could be it, too.
And do you think your tolerance and patience comes from having that religious background? Like, do you think your Christianity teaches you to forgive and have that forgiving spirit?
Partially. Part of it is because I was, you know, in Christianity, you are taught to forgive, but it's also just me as a person. Like, I'm very optimistic, and I think the best of people. Probably more than I should. But that's neither here nor there. So I think it's both parts, my personality and my religion.
And were you born Christian, or was it something that you picked up as you gotten older?
Yeah, I was born a Christian. My family, back, we've all, you know, practiced Christianity. And I was born into a family that, you know, it was important for you to go to church, for you to love and accept God, Jesus Christ, and to practice it daily. I am a member of the AME denomination. You know, Christianity is split into denominations. You have Catholicism, you have Protestant, you have Methodist, and so AME stands for African Methodist Episcopal. And it came from the Methodist, the white Methodist denomination back in the 1800s. I think it was before that, but I think it was the 1800s. They split the black people that were going to the white Methodist churches. You know, they were treated badly. They were disrespected. They had to sit in certain places, you know, like how we heard about it before. And they didn't want to take it anymore, so they split off and created their own denomination. And so my family has been a part, my mother's side of the family has been a part of that denomination for as long as I can remember, and I think as long as my mother can remember. My dad's side of the family, he identifies as a Baptist. So he goes to a Baptist church.
So do you think if you hadn't been born Christian, you would have chosen Christianity?
Okay, well, although I was born into it, you know, you do things because your parents tell you to, or because it seems like the norm. So, you know, I'm going to church, and I'm doing all of this up until the age of 16. And, you know, like, you're just doing it, but you're not understanding the importance of it. You're just doing it because, you know, it's what you're taught or what you're told to do. So at 16, I made the decision for myself. You have to join a church and give your life over. We know this. That's why you get in the Baptist church. That's why they hold off on baptizing you, and until you're like a certain age for where you can think for yourself and you can make the decision for yourself. So they do it when you're older. In the Methodist church, you know, we baptize as babies. And I say that because the baptism is supposed to be like your decision, you making that decision to follow Christ for yourself. So even though I got baptized as a baby, here I am
I'm following my parents, following my family, and doing something that I really don't understand. And at the age of 16, I finally understood for myself why I needed to be obeying this religion. And so that's when I joined the church. That's what you do in the Methodist church. You join a church, and that's your real signal, I think. That's how I'm going to describe it. That's your real signal in saying, I'm going to follow Christ for myself. So I'm following Christ for myself because I'm now seeing for myself the good that he has done in my life. I can see it. I can fully understand it at this point, and I can see him. I can see how he moves in my life.
And how do you feel that your religion reflects onto how you view womanhood and how you think, I guess, how you feel like you should carry yourself as a woman?
Okay. I just read a Bible verse the other day off Instagram. It was he who finds a wife finds a good thing, or something to that effect. I can't remember the exact verse right now, but that's pretty much the general gist of that verse. And the Bible states what a woman should be, or how a woman should carry herself. It's in there. I can't recall any particular description right now, but it is in there because we just talked about it last month. But I do think that I do think that not only did religion teach me how to be a woman, but of course my mother and my aunties and my cousins, whatever. My mother gave me all the advice that I would need in how to be a woman. Because womanhood is not just because you are now grown. Womanhood is not just because you have reached a certain age and you are no longer a girl. Womanhood comes with a certain mindset, a certain maturity, and a certain way that you carry yourself. That means having certain standards, having a certain demeanor about yourself and stuff like that. So I did learn that from being in church, but also from the women around me.
And how do you navigate through your religion based on your experiences? Like, because I know you said that when you were a child, you didn't really understand the importance of Christianity. And how did you start to understand it as you got older with your experiences?
How did I start to understand it?
Like,
when I was older?
Help you better understand yourself? Does that make sense?
No. Say it again.
So the question is, how do you navigate through your religion with your beliefs? So how do you, knowing what you know and experiencing what you have experienced, navigate through Christianity? Because I know not everybody, like you said, we're all humans and we're all going to have faults. So how do you navigate with those faults and still find yourself on that righteous path?
Okay. So we all have faults. So the key even though we have faults, the key to being a Christian is having faith, right? So you have faith that God, Jesus, they are going to love you, protect you, and accept you regardless of your faults. Because you know that they truly love you that much. But even though you have faith that they will, you also have to work to not you have to work to not do what you've been doing. You can't, what I want to say, you can't be out here doing what God told you not to do and expect to be blessed and expect to be, you can't expect God to bless you when you do what He tells you not to do. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that you have to repent and not go back to doing what you were doing before?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to do religion, like general religion? Because those are all the questions for religion and womanhood.
Yeah, let's do general religion.
Okay.
That's cool.
Why do you believe that some people are averse to the church? And do you think it's because society has become overly secular?
What is secular?
That means they're more spiritual than religious, so they're kind of straying away from the church.
Okay.
So why do you think people are moving away from religion?
From the church.
Yeah.
Because they are seeing how we act. And I have a friend who, I have a couple friends actually, who are, going through that as we speak. It was, you would ask, well, what did you do today? This is a Sunday now. What did you do today? I was just at the house. And this is like when I'm first meeting him. I was like, oh, okay, you didn't go to church today? And I guess it's wrong for me to automatically assume that everybody goes to church or that everybody is even religious. So I'm working on that part. And then they tell me, well, I don't go to church. And I say, well, why? And then they tell me, I used to go to church and then something happened. This happened and this happened. And I was just like, okay. So, people don't go to church because there's drama in the church. Because somebody talked about me in the church. Because I don't get along with somebody in church. Okay. And they're using these reasons, and they're just going to cut off church, period. Like, at all. And so I asked them, well, why don't you just find another one? And they're just like, well, I don't want to do that. And I just said, okay. So I believe that, you know, you shouldn't cut off church completely, because even though you are religious and you believe in God, the Bible does say that you do also need to go to church. You need to be around other Christ-like people, and you need to assemble as praise. I had to learn that for myself. I had a conversation with my mother as a freshman, because my first semester of my freshman year, I did not go to church. Well, I went, but it was probably like 2, 3, 4 times. It was because, you know, I'm in a new city. I don't know these people. I don't feel comfortable. So I'm not going to go. Or I'm too tired today. I'm not going to go. Or I just don't feel like it. So I'm not going to go. And my mom, you know, she was upset that you're not going. Why didn't you go today? Why didn't you go today? Why didn't you go today? And so one day I asked her, what's so important about actually going to church? And that's what she told me, like, it's actually in the Bible that the scripture says, assemble. Assembly is important. So, if you have problems in one church, find another, because I guarantee you there is somewhere in all these 50 states, in all these different cities, that will actually appeal to you. Somewhere in 50 states, a church will appeal to you. Somewhere in your state, somewhere in your city, a church can appeal to you. You just gotta fight it.
And then the last question is, how big of a role do you feel that religion should play in people's daily lives?
Having a relationship with God most of the time will cure your problem. And I say most of the time because we know that God will test you. Some of those tests can be easy tests, but then some of those tests are harder tests. But in the end, it will help you to become a better person. The test that he gives you, in the end, do help you to become a better person. But I think a relationship with God does it for me, I will say that it's kind of therapeutic, because I can have an issue going on. I don't feel like talking to anybody, or I can feel that the people that I'm around won't be able to help me in my situation. And I can just go over into a corner and, you know, just have a conversation with him. And I will feel 10 times better in just praying to God than talking to my friends. Not saying that my friends are bad people, or saying that, you know, like they don't help at all, because they do sometimes. but it seems like everything is like crystal clear when I pray. Like I have no doubt at that point. We look to other people and get advice from other people when they're figuring it out just like we are. And then you have some quote unquote friends who are actually, you know, not really good for you, or they're not there for the right reasons, and we don't realize how detrimental they really are to our growth, both spiritually and non-spiritually.
So do you have any other comments or questions about religion?
Not a question, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
So, going back to the whole why people don't go to church thing. Do not allow this world to distort the true image of religion, because everybody will interpret it differently. For example, you know how slave masters use the Bible to what's the word I want to use, Giovanna?
Justify, or at least try to justify.
Yeah. How slave masters use the Bible to justify their actions. Which was wrong. So that's my example. Do not, it's like everybody's interpretation will be different, and some of them will be good and some of them will be bad. So do not allow those interpretations to blind you from the actual truth. God is one of love, is one of kindness, is one of forgiveness, is one of chances, is one of blessing. And I feel as though we need to find a way to get back to that, because either we lost sight of it, or everything that people are thinking that it is, that was really, it's actually becoming the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess what I take from what you're saying is that you feel like people get a biased view of religion because of someone's bad interpretation. It's like how people think, or some people think that religion hates gay people, and other people are just like, no, that's not what religion teaches.
Yeah.
Because I know I used to work with this magazine, and one of the girls in the magazine, she was gay and she was also a Christian, and she was like, those two don't have to be like exclusive. Like, you can be both.
Yep.
But were there any
if
other
the people that if the people that you are around are true Christians, you have to figure out who's really a true Christian, because a true Christian is gonna love you and accept you for who you are, and that's the problem. We all walking around here claiming that we're Christians, but we are not. Some of us are not acting like true Christians. That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, I know I was doing an interview with somebody else, and he was saying that some people are hyper religious. It's like they try to, I guess they're not really, I don't know how I want to say it. Like they kind of say they're about religion, but they're only doing it to talk down on other people.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and that's a sad truth. Well, I don't think anybody. Well, let me see. Somebody is a Christian just so they can talk down on people.
But they kind of use that Christian. Oh yeah. Like it's not that they're a Christian to talk down on people, but they try to use Christianity as their reason to feel like they're better than someone else.
Mm. I can see how they use what they've been taught in their, well, whoever is teaching them, then that's okay. You know, if I'm a Christian, what kind of bread did you want? Here. You know, people, depending on who you are and where you come from, you get taught, you get taught different things. So maybe whoever's around them is teaching them that that's okay.